Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I thought we'd start off with this map, which shows you from May 1st of this year through June 22nd, the total precipitation ranks by climate district. Now, we have 128 years in total in this data set, and this is mainly based off of weather stations. So when you look at this, what we're going to do here is we're going to compare one being the wettest, 128 being the driest. We can see that a significant portion of the Pacific Northwest right now is having like a top 30 wet spring and early summer, and some places much higher than that. In fact, some of the districts here ranking in the top 5. And as you slide farther to the south, you can see here as we get down into parts of Arizona, Southern California, Southern Nevada, getting rid of New Mexico, there are some places in it that are having a top 10 driest start to spring and then early summer here. And it's just important to keep this in perspective as we move forward because in this forecast, it's going to be critical to understanding, well, one, how we continue to have vegetative growth. So what this next graphic shows you here is the year-on-year change in the vegetative health index. So when you look at it, remember that when you see these colors, that represents looking better than a year ago, and these colors looking worse than a year ago. And in parts of Oregon and Washington and Montana, we can see that there are places where, for example, pasture growth looks a lot better this year than it did last year. And the same thing goes in sections in California. But there are pockets where things are looking much worse than they did. For example, where we've seen a lot of the extreme heat down here in southern Arizona, parts of Nevada, Utah, Snake River Valley, there are some pockets in there that don't look nearly as good as they did a year ago. So we're just going to keep an eye on this as we progress throughout the rest of our growing season. Now today, about the only place in the country that's showing up with a significant hazard on our all hazards weather map is the heat advisories in the Central Valley of California, where we are anticipating once again extremely warm temperatures. But like we've seen so far this year, those temperatures are going to flip-flop on us again. Until they do, though, look at the 7-day evaporation, total evaporation we're anticipating here. A lot of the values in the Central Valley range between 1 and 3/4 inches, in some places getting up to 2.5 inches of evaporation. And with the heat in the Northwest and in the Columbia Basin, we are expecting those values to be quite high as well, maybe bordering on 2+ inches of total evaporation. Then as the heat continues to pour on down here in the desert, we are not seeing much relief at all, and the monsoon is yet to give us any sort of early signal. We're going to talk about what those pressure patterns look like into July here in just a few moments. But just a good map to take in to know where we stand with evaporation this week. So I want to talk temperatures first because today is the hot one. You can see here we're going 110, 112 down here and then racing up the Central Valley of California with upper 90s, lower 100s. But notice up in the Columbia Basin, for example, in Yakima, 95 degrees here. So over in Spokane, 86, and in parts of the Snake River Valley, we're still seeing some very high temperatures. Well, let's play this forward to see how things change as we get into the day on Wednesday. And as I promised you, there will be change coming, but we're going to have to wait for it a little while. Wednesday's high temperatures back off a bit in the Northwest, but still the heat is on the Central Valley down to Phoenix. Going from Wednesday into Thursday, another hot one there for the Central Valley. Still keeping the heat on in the Columbia Basin like we talked about. But watch as I go from Friday into your weekend. Ready? So this is Friday's highs. The heat is still on. But here we go. Saturday into Sunday and into Monday. Big change is coming, and this just continues our roller coaster ride of temperatures along the west coast of the United States. And we're going to try to put some explanation to this just in a few moments here. But in the near term, let's just watch to see what the upper level flow pattern's doing. So this is the ridge that's bringing in the heat this week, and what's going to cool us down is right now sitting here a couple thousand miles away just south of the tip of the Aleutian Islands. We talked about it in yesterday's video, so watch as I play this one forward as the progression of this trough moves towards the west coast. So we see the ridge that's in place and staying in place for a while, but that first trough has moved here into the Gulf of Alaska, and a second one builds back here over that same region. Now as we move it forward, watch this trough. There it is in British Columbia. It goes diving down. See it? And that's what we're going to be seeing over this weekend and early next week as bringing in not only an unsettled weather pattern and chances for thunderstorms, but significant cool off here once again. And the pattern at Pierce tends to want to bunch up a bit. You almost see the omega block there. Now remember, to technically be a block, the pattern has to stay in place for at least 10 days. That is the definition of a block. And so we'll have to see if this is just a temporary sharp, kind of north-south gradient here in the flow of the atmosphere. This what appears to be an omega pattern But as I play through early next week, you can see that getting out to next Wednesday, July the 1st, all the way through Thursday and Friday, well, the new pattern tends to want to settle us into this trough here across the West Coast, which again could keep things unsettled, especially as we get into parts of Idaho, Montana, and then British Columbia and Alberta as well. But certainly going to be one that's going to knock those temperatures back here along the West Coast of the United States. So what are we anticipating in terms of total accumulation, in terms of precipitation over the next week? Well, remember, a lot of what you see coming in here is coming when that trough dives in. Until that, we have a couple of chances at some showers and storms, but it's going to be relatively dry up the West Coast. And let's just, I think, take a look at that now with our operational European model. Well, playing this forward from this morning, we can see, watch this, as we go back here to Tuesday afternoon and evening. Now getting into the overnight hours on Tuesday. Watch what happens as we go from Tuesday into Wednesday. Chances of scattered storms seem to be alive and well in parts of Washington and Idaho and Montana as we work our way into Wednesday evening. But notice overall, it's a drier pattern until, so this is now, I've went all the way through to Friday, so we got there. And then as we see this low pressure system on Friday evening starting to slip down, it's right here. See the high way out here? Well, the low's coming around the side of it right there. And what it's going to do is it's going to sneak in from the northwest such that as the time we get into our weekend, that's when the unsettled pattern really gets established. Maybe more as the European model has it timed here on a Sunday event, getting into Monday. So unsettled start to next week, as we can see right here in the precipitation field as forecast by the European. So Monday into Tuesday and then into Wednesday, a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms inside of that deeper trough. So prepare for that early next week. Could just continue to put us on our wet, dry season, which is something to be watchful of here. Now, as we go beyond that, I want to show you two different views of this, day 4 through 10 and then day 8 through 15. So the day 4 through 10 map gets us through July the 2nd. And once again, we can see the unsettled pattern for a big section here of the western and part of North America and the northwestern part of the United States. And then it stays there through day 11 through 15, telling us that the trough that we have sweeping through here does have some staying power. Is it truly a blocked up pattern at this point? We can't really for sure tell at this stage, but it is certainly making things very unsettled inside that area. I just put the circle, and then widely scattered showers and storms, Oregon, Washington, Idaho. Gonna have to watch out for that carefully. Now look at what it does to temperatures. This is your 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. So from extreme heat this week, well, as you get ready to begin the month of July, both models advertising substantially cooler patterns, maybe upwards of 7 to 10 degrees cooler than normal as we go into the beginning of July. But got some discrepancy out here as we look longer term in the 11 to 15 day. You see the GFS is returning back over toward normal temperatures, but the European is really got clued in on this higher pressure cell that's sitting somewhere out here in the Gulf of Alaska, and it wants to keep a cooler bias. So this particular time period, day 11 through 15, is one I'm going to be watching carefully in the model transitions and trying to understand what's causing that. Got a couple of pieces of information for you to discuss. We watched something called the Pacific North American pattern, and it kind of encapsulates what's going on with what we also call the Western Pacific Oscillation and the East Pacific Oscillation. But maybe it's the easier of those three to interpret. Whenever we see high values of the PNA, we're talking about a pattern like this, where the ridge is right along the coast and the jet stream runs over the top of it. This is certainly what we've got now and over the next few days, where we've got cooler air that's in here in the interior of the country, but the heat is on along the west coast of the United States. But you can see that trough arriving that I told you right now is off the Aleutian Islands. It's coming in, and as it does so, it sends us over into this negative PNA pattern, where the high pressure cell then migrates back to the west, and now you get the troughs that come in, and it's cooler and unsettled, and the heat builds in this case over the Great Lakes states, which is what we're going to be watching. The question becomes, as we get out here past June 30th all the way to July the 8th, you can see how some of the models want to take us back up into a positive PNA, but the spread is very large. And in general, when you average it all, it takes us back over to something neutral. Now that's key in understanding the long-range forecast. What we'll be watching as we begin in July is where this high pressure cell sits. So now you know its importance by those bottom two graphics. You see at this point, well, it's not too far to the west and it's not too far to the east. So in that particular case, when you look at a July forecast, we would tend to see more normal July heat, except for the fact that we do notice that the jet stream is retreating north. And when we put all that together, our longer range forecast for July continues to see above average temperatures for the western United States. But I don't think we've stopped this roller coaster ride just yet. The North Pacific isn't advertising that just yet to me. So I think we're going to continue to see, kind of like we've been talking about, week on, week off as we progress through the first few weeks of the month of July in terms of the way our heat has been moving. So in other words, until we really truly change the Pacific behavior in the jet stream, I don't have a reason to call for a change in the pattern we have been seeing. Okay? The maps you're looking at here go from July 7th through the 13th. And I think that's a good place for us to finish up. Hey, I want to invite you to watch the long range forecast tomorrow, where we're going to discuss some more of these things and really look at that North Pacific jet stream. And until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day, okay? Thank you so much.